The success of Nazi Germany's military campaigns in the early years of World War II was not just a result of bold tactics or battlefield skill. It was also powered by a vast and highly organized industrial apparatus. German industry played a critical role in arming the Wehrmacht, supporting Hitler's war aims, and sustaining a total war economy. From tanks and aircraft to ammunition and synthetic fuel, German factories were the beating heart of the Third Reich's war machine. Industry before the war, recovery and rearmament. Following its defeat in World War I, Germany faced economic hardship, hyperinflation, and strict military restrictions under the Treaty of Versailles. However, by the time Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany was already beginning a slow recovery. Hitler accelerated this process by investing heavily in rearmament, defying the treaty's limits. Massive state spending on weapons and infrastructure, including the Autobahn, revitalized the economy and dramatically reduced unemployment. Major industrial firms like Krupp, IG Farben, Daimler-Benz, and Messerschmitt benefited immensely, becoming key partners in the Nazi regime's militarization efforts. The military-industrial complex under the Nazis. Once war broke out in 1939, German industry was restructured to meet the demands of large-scale, prolonged conflict. While initially inefficient and divided among competing interests, including the Wehrmacht, SS, and Nazi ministries, Germany would eventually centralize and streamline its war production. Key features of Germany's wartime industrial strategy included four-year plan. A pre-war economic plan led by Hermann Göring aimed at making Germany self-sufficient in raw materials and ready for war. Military production. Factories were repurposed or expanded to produce tanks, Panzer series, aircraft like the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and Me 262, and submarines, U-boats. Synthetic materials. With limited access to oil and rubber, German industry produced synthetic fuel and rubber substitutes through companies like IG Farben. Exploitation of occupied territories. Germany seized factories, raw materials, and labor from conquered countries, integrating them into the Nazi war economy. Albert Speer and the mobilization of total war. In 1942, after a series of military setbacks, Albert Speer was appointed Minister of Armaments and War Production. Under his leadership, German industry underwent a dramatic transformation. Centralization of control under Speer allowed for better coordination and prioritization. Standardization of weapon designs improved efficiency. Rationalization of production lines increased output despite Allied bombings. For example, tank production more than doubled between 1942 and 1944, even as Germany was losing ground. Speer's reforms allowed the Nazi war machine to continue functioning far longer than many had expected. Forced labor and moral complicity. As the war dragged on and German manpower was depleted, industry turned increasingly to forced labor. Millions of foreign workers, prisoners of war, and concentration camp inmates were forced to work under horrific conditions in German factories. Companies such as Siemens, Daimler-Benz, and Volkswagen used slave labor. At Auschwitz, IG Farben constructed a massive industrial plant, Monowitz, near the death camp to exploit Jewish and other forced laborers. Conditions were often lethal. Many workers died from starvation, disease, or abuse. This widespread use of forced labor is one of the darkest aspects of Germany's wartime industrial system, and many German firms later faced post-war scrutiny for their involvement. The impact of Allied bombing. Beginning in 1942, the Allied strategic bombing campaign targeted German industry with increasing intensity. Cities like Hamburg, Berlin, and Dresden suffered massive destruction. Key industrial centers were bombed in an effort to cripple war production. Although the bombings caused severe disruption and civilian casualties, Speer's decentralization strategies and the underground relocation of factories allowed many sectors of German industry to continue producing, albeit at reduced capacity, until the final months of the war. Post-war reckoning and legacy. After Germany's defeat in 1945, Many German industrialists faced trials for war crimes and crimes against humanity, especially those involved in using forced labor. The Nuremberg trials highlighted the close relationship between industry and the Nazi regime. At the same time, many of Germany's industrial assets were dismantled or seized by the Allies, and the country faced demilitarization. However, the foundations laid by wartime industry, combined with post-war aid and reform, helped propel West Germany into a rapid economic recovery during the 1950s, what became known as the Wirtschaftswunder, economic miracle. German industry was the engine that powered Hitler's war ambitions. Through advanced engineering, mass production, and ruthless exploitation of labor and resources, it gave the Third Reich the tools to wage a global war. But it also became deeply complicit in the crimes of the Nazi regime, profiting from conquest, slavery, and genocide. The story of German industry in World War II is not only one of technological achievement, but also of ethical failure, and serves as a cautionary tale of how economic power can be harnessed for destruction. Ask ChatGPT.